Boss move. Now that's a boss move. Boss move. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Naomi Greenlee. Let's go. Let's go. Yes, you can do all that God has for you. Yes, you can have all that God's planned for you. Now that's a boss move. That's a boss move.
Wow. Good evening, everybody. How are you this evening? We're doing great? All right. Well, welcome to Boss Moves with Naomi. And I am so excited that you're here today. You are going to enjoy the show today. Have something very special for you. And when she comes up, it's going to change the whole atmosphere. So this is going to be totally awesome. I'm just super excited about it. Well, I tell you what, at the beginning, I always do what is a inspirational talk, because that's what I do. I inspire and I encourage. So a couple of years ago, I wrote a thing called the ABCs of getting to the place called there. Now, somebody asked me, what is the place called there? Well, the place called there is your calling, your destiny, your purpose. So this is the ABCs of getting to the place called there. A, accept your calling. Accept your failures and your success. B, be bold. Be courageous. Be strong. C, change your mind from where you are to where you're supposed to be. D, develop yourself. Read a book. Do something different. Go someplace you've never been before. E, evaluate where you are. Evaluate those who are in your circles. F, forget about your past mistakes. G, give your heart to a purpose, to a call, and yes, to a person. H, help others. I, isolate yourself from the haters. Isolate yourself from the haters, because they're out there. J, jump in. Do something in life. Don't just stand there. K, keep on pushing, keep on trying, keep on believing, keep on keeping on. L, love like your life depends on it. M, make something happen. Don't just wait for someone to do it. Make something happen. N, never, never, never give up. O, open your mind, open your heart to the possibilities and opportunities around you. P, prepare yourself for what God already has planned for you. Q, quit giving up on yourself. Quit giving up on your dreams and your hopes. R, rely on God. He's got you. S, stay focused. Stay focused. Stay focused. T, trust God, because He'll never change and He'll never let you down. U, utilize all of your resources around you. Utilize even the people that are in your life. V, validate those who speak into your life, because everybody is not qualified. W, wait on God, but please remember, while waiting, you win. Y, yield. X out all of those negative thoughts. X out everything that tries to tell you that you can't make it, you can't do it. X out all of those things that say, I can't. Y, yield to the voice that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Z, zeal, that's what you need. The enthusiasm, the fervor, the fire, the devotion, the commitment that makes you get to the other side and getting to that place called there. The ABCs of getting to the place called there. I'm always trying to rhyme and do something like that, but that's just, what I do. But what, I'm really excited, as I mentioned, because, a lot of times we do forget to have those things on the inside of us that allows us to move to the next level. And so many times we let things stop us and slow us down. But that's why I have this show called Boss Moves with Naomi. So what is that all about? Boss Moves with Naomi is, I really started that because sometimes people give up really quickly. right? They give up real easy on things because something went wrong. They figure, now I can give up because it didn't go right. Well, boss moves is that person that get up and say, you know what, regardless of how I feel, regardless of that failure, regardless of who does not believe in me, I'm going to make a boss move. I'm going to move up and I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I'm going to do it afraid. I'm going to do it even though I feel like I can't, but I know I can. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to make a boss move. And you know what? You'll never get anywhere if you don't make a boss move in life. How can you make it if you don't risk anything? There are some people who risk nothing and they get nowhere. But those risk takers, the ones that get up and say, I'm going to make a boss move. When somebody said, Naomi, I wanted to do when I came up, I wanted to be a journalist. But I didn't go that direction, so nobody was giving me anything to talk about. So guess what? I made a boss move and made up a boss move program, a boss move show. So we do boss moves around here. That's what it's all about. I never do something or say something that I never do. So if I'm talking about it, I'm being about it. So that's what this show is about, boss moves. I have guests who I believe have made boss moves in life. And so you're going to be introduced to a guest today who I know has made boss moves, and her personality just wins you over, seriously. So we're going to hear from her today, but that's my inspirational talk. And when I come back, actually I'm going to be showing you some financial tips. Anybody want some financial tips? Always. You know what? I'm grown, but I'm never too grown to hear some more financial tips. I can always get a little extra help on the financial tips. So when I get back, I'm going to give you some powerful financial tips. And I say powerful, guess what? They're so simple that we look over them. And these are ways to keep money in our pockets. So when I get back, that's what it's all about. Stay tuned. Boss Moves with Naomi. Naomi. If you're just now tuning in, you're tuning in to Boss Moves with Naomi. Well, right now it's time to just get our money straight. Anybody happy about that? Want to get some money situation straight? So I have a few tips for you. As a matter of fact, I have like 10 tips. So pick one, pick two, pick three. However many helps you, you pick those that'll do something for you, all right? So let's look at our first tip. Now, these are very practical tips, but it's something that a lot of us don't think about. So let's be practical. The first thing is to ditch the overdraft protection. Banks rely on that. They rely on that, their overdrafts to fund the banks. I was studying and had to do a study, 900 hours of study. And one of the things that they actually focused on was the things that banks rely on from you and I that's going to keep the banks running. One of them was all the fees that they charge for a lot of things. And the biggest one is the overdraft fees. So you're keeping the banks open. Keep it open with your money in there, not them taking the money. Number two, start saving ASAP. How many years have we heard that? But how many of us are actually doing it? Start saving ASAP. Some people say, well, Naomi, I can't actually save because I'm trying to pay the bills, right? Well, if you pay a little bit at a time and keep it in a separate account, keep it in don't put it with your checking account. I'm just telling you what I learned the hard way. Do not put it with your checking account. Create a financial calendar. And basically, some people say, I got it in my head. I always say, ink it, don't think it. Write it down. Because if you write it down, then even if you forget, you can go back and say, I didn't do this. Because sometimes we forget. We're human. We can forget, right? It's okay, but you have it written down. You have a calendar now. Take a daily money minute to keep your finances in check. Now, some people may be a little advanced past this, where they don't need to look at it daily. But if you're starting to straighten out your income and get things straight, take a look at it every day, just for a quick minute to check things and make sure things are okay. Make sure things are on point, what you think. I used to always say, a young man used to always say, inspect what you expect. So you want to definitely be checking on that, okay? Check your net worth, the difference between your assets and your debts. how much money after your bills also that you have left. So if you check in that, you won't overdo it if you already know. Some of us say, well, my check was $2,000, $3,000. Okay, so now I know what I got in my head. But you're not really checking it. That's not checking it up here. I'm telling you, I know what I've been through with just trying to keep everything in my head. So I say, girl, you're smart, but not that smart. So if you're trying to pay off things, make bite-sized goals. Not this huge goal. I'm going to pay my house off right now. Not that, okay? Not yet. Let's say we ought to, maybe you're going to pay off the smallest bill. So do it in bite-size, because you get discouraged when you make really huge goals and you don't get them, then you fall off and you just say, forget it all. So keep your money goals small to start out, like saving for a trip or buying an object you really want if you have a financial goal. Never co-sign for anyone. Yep. This is the one to keep you out of trouble. Never co-sign. If you've already done it, just don't do it again. If you have bad credit, start fixing it by getting a secured credit card and keep the usage below 30%. You keep the usage below 30% and watch your credit score increase. So I used to teach this every Thursday night, all about the credit. All about the credit. And that's just one little piece right there that I think some people are missing. They're trying to pay off everything on their credit report. Don't do that either. Start out with doing a secure credit card and keep it under 30%. And some of them actually say under 10% if you can. 30% will do fine. 10% even better. Because it's a lot of things they look at when they look at your credit score. It's not just how much debt you have. It's the utilization of your credit cards and things like that, and the percentage of credit cards that you use. So, and also, as I mentioned before, I said that before, keep your savings out of your checking account, because when you write that check, you feel like, okay, I'll just use it this time. No, if you keep it separate, you'll be happier about that. And the last thing is pay attention, as I mentioned earlier, to those fees. That's almost another bill that you're not paying attention to. Other fees like late fees, fees from the bank, fees from everything that goes on. Pay attention to those. And that's why sometimes I like to give little practical financial tips. The next time I do have on course to give a practical tip on not just saving money, but investing. So if you want some information on investing, the next show I'll give you a little tip on investing, where you don't have to invest. Some people don't invest because they feel like, well, I don't have $10,000 to invest. Well, we're not talking about $10,000. I'm going to show you some ways you can start investing for a very, 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 very low amount, just to get your feet wet, under $100 to get your feet wet, and show you how to do that. And then you take it from there. You take it up from there. So, anybody happy about getting some financial tips?
Yeah.
So, I didn't see anybody write one of them down. I'm assuming that your memory is just extra good and you're just going to remember what you needed out of there. Because I want you to get something out of, when it comes out of my mouth, I want you to get something that's going to change your life or change your situation. If it don't go as big as changing your life, at least changing the situation for you. So thank you so much for, having some of those in your mind. I could tell some of you all when I was looking was saying like, okay, I might do that one. That one sounds pretty good. So let's definitely do some of those tips so it can start changing some things for us. All right? So that's been your financial tips. And then you know what? The next part I have is going to be the fun part for you who like to eat. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask when I'm going to do I'll tell you when I get back. But I'm going to ask for 4 volunteers, brave volunteers, because you're going to have to taste something that I fix. And every time I do it, this is not just a eating portion, this is a healthy eating portion. So everything I fix when I do it is always going to be something very healthy. BossMoves with Naomi, and this is a portion of the show that I really enjoy because I get a chance to cook up something and see if you like it. So it's all about healthy eating right now. I'm going to first tell you everything that is in this sandwich. It's a sandwich, okay? And the first thing I'm going to do is just pretty much put this down while I'm talking. Now, this sandwich is a sandwich I made up. I made up the name. I made up what I threw on there. So hopefully you kind of like the taste of it. We'll see, right? And this is a healthy breakfast sandwich. And I named it Tex Boss. And the reason I named it Tex Boss because I'm in Texas and I'm a boss. So this sandwich is called Tex Boss. And I made it one morning and it was really, really good. And my son was like, So unless he was lying to me, you're going to like it too. So all you do with this, and that's why I talked about it's happening. Only thing you're doing is you're making a toast, and I'll tell you everything is in it. Here we go. Toasted bread, of course. Spread just mayo on one side, and this doesn't have eggs in it, doesn't have a GMO or anything, so it's really healthy mayo. Then you spread, listen to this, vegan cream cheese on one side, and mayo on the other side, a sliced tomato, everything's healthy, right? A slice of avocado, and spinach, EVOO, that's extra virgin olive oil, apple cider vinegar, and I always do this particular one. This is, from my understanding, the healthiest one is the Bragg Organic. So that's the type, so I brought it out. And EVOO, I always say get it in a glass bottle. If you get it in something plastic, you're getting other stuff in it that you don't want in your body over a period of time, so make sure that it's glass, all right? Optional that I did not bring, because afterwards we might be hugging and talking, and that's onions. So that's optional. Some people love that in there. So a little pepper, and then if I sprinkle a little salt, my son always say, Mom, no salt, no salt. It will be the pink Himalayan salt. Okay, so that's to me the healthiest part if you're going to do salt at all. And then a little bit of pepper. So let's get started. Those ingredients, and then I'm going to slice it in 4 pieces. That's why I want 4 people to try it. Do I have 4 volunteers who's going to be brave enough to try this? Can I get 4 hands raised? What? Well, guess what? I'm calling out some people. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to call out some people. So, first of all, as I mentioned, all we're getting is a regular toast. And on one side, I'm going to put a little just mayo. And it actually says just mayo on here. So if you're ever looking for it in the store, it says just mayo. And so we'll spread a little of that on here. All right. Easy enough? Because every time I do something, it's going to be really, really easy for you to do. Then we're going to do the vegan cream cheese. Vegan cream cheese. Not bad, you guys. Don't frown up. It's not bad. It's actually pretty good. And to me, it's always good when I know I'm putting something healthy in my body. So if I don't have it, if it's not to my taste, I'll make myself start liking it. Because I know my body is going to love it. Okay. And as I mentioned, have a couple of slices of tomatoes and fresh avocado. So here we go, the avocado. I'm just going to open that up a little bit and slice a few slices on here. Thank you. Easy slicing here. And if you like avocados like I do, I know some people don't. I know a couple people in here who do not like avocados. But really, that's only because you haven't tasted it. So I'm going to put just a tiny bit of little salt on that. Just a little. A little bit of pepper. Just a tiny bit of that. Get a little taste in there. A little spinach. We know this is healthy, right? Somebody say, where's the bacon? Where's the meat? I want the stuff. Well, I'll have you to know that it is still pretty good. All right. Okay, so didn't want to forget, almost forgot. This is actually pretty good, you got, and really good for you. Let me tell you a really quick story about this this apple cider. I met a lady one day, and she said that she had gone to the doctor and she had some issues, found out she had cancer, and she had to change her entire eating habits, everything. And she said one thing she righteously did every single day. She got this particular brand, and she put like 2 caps in like a water bottle, shook it up, and sipped it all day, but she did it every single day. That's not the only thing she did, but she said that was a big part of balancing her inside out was with this. And she is totally cancer-free and anything else that she had, and her husband went on it with her. So if you're married and you want to go healthy, can the husbands and wife, can you do it together and make it a lot easier? Okay, so then we're going to put, now you know when you go to Subway, they do the vinegar and oil, right? So I'm not doing anything crazy. It's pretty good, but I'm a deli kind of person anyway. I like deli foods. All right. And that was really, really quick. It's a pizza cutter, but you know what I do. I use whatever I think is the best thing for the job. And to me, that would be the best thing for the job. I didn't get those 4 volunteers. I'm going to look up and call a few people and ask if you would do me a favor and come up here and taste this for me. Okay, that's 1 for... Oh, thank you. Let's give him a hand. Thank you so much. See, I got a man to taste it. Ain't no bacon and hamburger on it, and he's still tasting it. Can I get somebody else? Anybody else? Oops, that's okay. Oh, yay! Now, could you tell me if it tastes okay or what?
It's delicious.
Ah, see? Yes.
You want
Okay. No. Here's a napkin for you.
Oh,
Yay! Now, I knew you should have came with your healthy eating self.
Was that apple cider vinegar?
Yes. Here's a napkin for you too.
Okay. It tastes good.
Yeah. So everybody, let me know if you like it or not. If you don't like it, it's okay. But if you like it, yay! One more. Can I get one more? Can I get one? Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It's good. The apple cider vinegar gives it a tangy taste. Yeah.
There you go.
Overpowered that.
So do I have a unanimous decision that it is pretty good?
It is pretty
That's
good.
a good, healthy breakfast sandwich. Oh, okay, good. Well, let's give them all a great solid hand. He asked me if I could make another one. See? Y'all missed out. Let's just talk to Ann for a bit. I'll tell you, Ann, when you were telling me that you had a book, I figured it's going to be something really motivational just by your personality and just that quick little conversation I had. We only met not too long ago, but you know, I believe in divine connections and things like that. So definitely. Ann, so what's the title of your book?
So the title of my book is Soul Talk, and it's 20 soul-stirring stories of women who let go and let God. And I happen to be a co-author in the book, and my chapter is Worship While You Wait.
Wow. So that right there already is good, just knowing that. So who would you say this book is for?
I would say that this book is for both males and females. I don't think that it's gender specific. And I would definitely say it is for anyone who has experienced that dry period where they thought that they couldn't, where God wasn't traceable, and that they didn't think that they would necessarily make it through the next day, the next second. This is definitely a book that will encourage you, because it does, although it resonates with women, it resonates with your basic Christian
Wow. And I'm sure, coming from you, that's going to be something really, really powerful. I can just tell. Just, by going on your website and different things that I've seen and seeing your live feed that you do, always very good. So, so let's talk a little bit also about, you mentioned to me when we had a conversation about your single life, and I know I have a few singles in here, and what you did. So let me word it the way I really want to say it. Let's talk about a little bit about your single life and what you did that opened the door to you finally getting married. And what did you say on all that? What was that situation going on there?
So with my single life, throughout this book, I really do talk about the insecurities that I had as a woman in my 30s that had never been married with no children. Oftentimes society will tell you that it's something wrong with you, or people will say, well, what's wrong with you? And unfortunately, because I wasn't as strong in Christ then as I am now, I started to doubt myself. So what I finally did is, what worked for me was really just to focus on realizing that one is a whole number. And marital status does not define who you are in Christ. Mm-hmm. So single is one is a whole number. But what I had to also do was really do some soul searching and focus on myself, focus on my relationship with the big H-I-M, so that the lowercase H-I-M would come into my life.
Wow. Okay. Well, hey, and that's good because he knows his place as far as being the head of you while God is the head of it all. So that's awesome.
Exactly. Definitely, we put God first, and then we put each other second. So we totally understand that my husband is the priest, prophet, and provider of our home. And I have to tell you, throughout my singleness, that wasn't what I thought marriage was. So I had to do some soul searching, and it was a process of me working on me and making sure that I was ready for all that God had for me.
Wow, that sounds like one of the ABCs. Prepare yourself for what God already has planned for you. That's pretty good. I like that. I know you mentioned at one point you were saying that what you did too was when you were waiting on God for that one person, you made a vision board, or you did something with that?
Yes. Throughout, this was a 10-year journey for me, which I talk about in my chapter. So throughout this 10-year journey, I was getting scriptures. So prior to my mom, prior to her passing, she had given me Mark 11:24, which is whatever you ask God for, believing that you're going to receive it, you'll get it. And then another very good friend of mine, who was also single at the time, had given me Jeremiah 29:11 a few years later. For I know the thoughts that I have for you, thoughts to prosper you and not to harm you, to plan for your future. And then throughout this journey, I kept hearing this scripture, Habakkuk 2:2-3. Write the vision, make it plain, though it tarry, wait for it, because it's surely going to come. So I took that scripture, I took all of those scriptures, and I just wrote down what it was that I wanted in my husband. I wrote it down on May, I can remember the day, I don't remember the actual day that I wrote it down, but I have it still in my Bible. It was May the 13th, and I just had a small piece of paper, and I put it in half, and I wrote what I wanted in my husband, and I wrote what I wanted in my wedding. So I want my husband to be tall, I want him to be handsome, because one pastor said you need to be specific with your prayer. You've got to be specific. So I didn't want to say I just want a man or a husband. And I said I want him to have a relationship with God. I want him to have my front, my back, my sides. I want him to be a contributor to the wedding plans. I want him to have a maximum of 2 children, because at the age that I was, the chances of me meeting someone who hadn't been married or had children was a little, because I was in my mid to late 30s. And so I wrote that down, and then on my wedding, I said I want everyone there to be happy for me. I want a long sparkling gown. I want a candlelit service. I want a body of water present. I said I want magnolias for my mom, lilies for my dad, because both of my parents were deceased. So I wrote all of that down on 5/13/04, and I just tucked it away in my Bible, in the Bible that my mom had given me before she passed. in Habakkuk 2:2-3, and I left it there. I mean, periodically I would go and I would look at it, but pretty much I left it there. And what I can tell you is that there's power in your vision, and that you should always keep your vision in the forefront of your mind and keep it in your heart. But you have to believe what God's word says about you and about your situation. And so that was 5/13/04. 7 years later, I was married.
Wow.
And
Wow.
what I tell folks is, and this is really where people are like amazed, and even I was amazed at this piece. I wrote that I wanted a body of water present. Well, at the time, I lived in Southwest Fort Worth, Texas. I don't even know, I mean, what is it, the Trinity or something? I didn't live anywhere near a body of water, but that's what I wrote down. And we first got married by our pastor. We got married on August the 5th, and strategically, we collectively selected that date because 8 is a sign of new beginnings and 5 is grace. So I said, this is new grace for us. And 3 weeks later, we got married in Cabo San Lucas, where my backdrop was where the Sea of Cortez and the Pacific Ocean meets.
Wow.
So I said, I wrote down body of water present 7 years prior.
Wow.
Had no idea. And then, I mean, that's nobody but God.
Right.
So if you see me saying that, that's
Yeah, I agree, and I so agree with you on that, writing down. How many people heard about writing things down? That's something, it's something to that. I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you seriously. And I've done it a few times to see. One I did when I lived in St. Louis. I said I want a 2-story house, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and I want the house paid for. Sounds crazy, right? Why am I sitting in that today? I wrote that down, and I believe that. I believe that. And sometimes when things, you have that in you, is maybe not be for today, but down the road that could come to you. But remember to do that. And so this is another confirmation of that, of writing it down and watch it happen. And one instance, I had a young lady that used to work with me. And I said, wow, you've been sitting here for years and you never got a job. How did you just get that job all of a sudden? She said, Naomi, for 2 weeks, I wrote on this paper, I wrote down what I wanted and when I wanted. I wrote down the job, I wrote down the job. And she showed me, she wrote it down through a notebook, a ring notebook. She kept writing it on the front and the back. Somebody else see that, they think you're crazy writing the same thing now, over and over on each line. But she said she wrote it down. And after she kept writing and saying it every day, 2 weeks later, she had that job. And she had been sitting there for 13 years waiting for a position. And after she did that. So I believe there is something to that. So don't knock it before you try it. So that's really good. And I enjoy having someone who wrote a Christian book, because I have a guest coming, and his book is not a Christian book, it's about business. But then, I get to connect with the Christian book. So that's wonderful, wonderful to hear. So if you have any goals, write them down. Write them down and make it plain, and start saying it and believe it until it really gets in you. And you'll be surprised don't be surprised. Be saying, like, this is confirmation. Expect it. Yeah, you got to do it with expectancy. So what would you say, because I know you've been through the journey and you have, went through the single life for a while a long while, okay, before you were married. And so what would you say to singles who want to be married? Just give them that.
What I would say to singles who are desiring to be married is the main thing is enjoy your singleness. And when I was single and I would hear that, I'd be like, yes, coming from a married person. But what I can say in retrospect is it will give you the opportunity to focus on who you are and whose you are. Don't listen to naysayers. Distance yourself from those folks who don't believe like you believe. If you've written it down or you have it in your heart and this is what you desire and you are trusting God to deliver on that, when people say, well, you're too old to get married, something is wrong with you. Distance yourself. If it doesn't align with what God has told you, then distance yourself from that. And what I would say too is to your points earlier, make sure that you have everything in order. Make sure that your finances are in order. And what I've told some of the younger people that I've talked to, if you're in your 20s, it's not that I'm not an advocate for getting married at a young age, but that's the prime opportunity for you to establish yourself in the marketplace. That's the prime opportunity for you to focus on your education. And then build upon that. That's the prime opportunity for you to get everything out that you need to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would say is, again, I believe this in my heart, and once you really start to believe it for yourself, 1 is a whole number.
Yes, that's true. I agree. 1 is a whole number. And you mentioned in your book, the worship while you wait. And how would you put that to what we're talking about with singleness?
What I did, and part of this journey, I met my husband in 2003. And then we didn't start dating until around 2005. Well, when we met in 2003, this just kind of shows you how God strategically aligns things. It wasn't like, oh, let's hook them up. It wasn't like that at all. It was just, the person who he works with is my cousin. So it was just, I think we'd gone to some kind of after party after the Mavericks or something. And that was it. Well, what I can tell you is, we dated, and then as we dated, I got into ministry at my church. Mm-hmm. And part of the struggle was, doing the right thing as far as ministry is concerned. And then too, my husband really wasn't sure whether or not he wanted to be married. He would tell me that, "You're my soulmate." And I was like, "Oh, I am? Then I'm from Missouri."
Right.
So I need to show me. So throughout that period, throughout our tenure, if you will, we broke up for about a little over a year and a half. And what I did is I just saturated myself in ministry. I really had to focus on it. I'm like, okay, here we go again. And I also had to take a look at myself, like, what decisions am I making? And that comes with spiritual maturity and just maturity overall.
Right.
Do I want to put myself out there and date somebody else? And at that time, I knew that I didn't, because I knew that I loved my husband. Well, at the time, it wasn't my husband, but I knew that I loved him. And what I did is I just kept going higher and higher and higher at my church in ministry for a women's discipleship ministry. So I started out as a participant, just a participant learning, and I was moved up to over hundreds of women. So that was my focus.
Wow. And when you focus, you will get there. Stay focused. Stay focused. Well, see, I'm going to be saying the whole ABC throughout this. You see that, right? Take advantage of it. Now, tell me now, as a wife, what advice would you give single men and women as a wife in a wife area?
As a wife, what I would say to single women and men is, again, know who you are so that you don't lose yourself in marriage. There has to be, your foundation has to be, to me, you have to have core values. Right. Just like you work for a company or you have your own company and they have core values and you abide by those core values, why not have core values in your marriage or in your relationships? Right. So you have to have core values, and whatever those core values are, you have to be on the same page. Mm-hmm. Respect, trust, integrity, effective communication, not just communication, effective communication, forgiveness, whatever those core values are. So I would say, as a single person, establish what those core values are. Work on your credit, work on your savings account, and really, you have got to just trust God and don't give up. You have got to just trust God that He's going to give you the desires of your heart. And as you focus on your relationship with, again, the big Him, even if the little Him doesn't come, because that's what I said. I said, you know what, God, you know that I want to be married, but if this is not your will for me, you know better than I do.
Right.
It's a win-win situation when you do that.
Yeah, that's how you have to fix it too. In your heart and in your mind, it is a win-win. Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I want to touch a little bit more on your book. When you mentioned about your section of worship while you were waiting.
Yes.
Elaborate on that for us, because I know it's a lot of other good things in that book as well with the other individuals who had their piece in there. But I want you to elaborate a little bit on what made you write that part, okay? And did it teach you some things while you were learning to put that and write that together?
So I can tell you what made me write this. After we got married, my pastor just believes that marriage is your first ministry. So I focused on my marriage. And when I did that, I stepped away from being in leadership at church and ministry. And I just had a longing, because I had women that would constantly reach out to me about relationship things or professional things that they were going through. And I found myself, even though I professionally coach, I found myself doing that. And I was like, I had a longing to get back into ministry. And when she's my coach, and she's my coach now, so everybody needs a coach. But when she came with the offer to say, I want you to be a part of this project, blah, 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 blah. I prayed about it, and it was two things that came up that I was going to write about, and this ended up being the chapter where I knew that I could impact the lives of a lot of people.
Wow. That sounds like one that we all want to make sure we read, especially with the worshiping while you're waiting. Because, sometimes while you're waiting, you can get discouraged on some things, and while you're waiting, it seems like it'll never happen, whatever it is you're waiting on, because we're not waiting properly. I believe that's where that comes from. We're not waiting properly. So tell me, what are you involved in right now?
Oh, gosh. I am involved in a lot of things right now. The book, again, was a springboard for me to, I won't say subliminally get back into ministry, but it has been a springboard for me to kind of relaunch my coaching business. So I have a coaching practice where I focus on helping women and men as well to be the best that they can be for themselves so that they can be the best for someone else. Oftentimes we operate when we're not at our best, and when we're not at our best, we're only giving folks half. And nobody wants half. When you go to shop for a pair of shoes, do you expect when you get home that there just be one in the box? Exactly. So I just focus on helping people to be the best that they can be so that they can be the best for someone else. And that's through my website, theannlorraine.com. I also have a Facebook group. It's called Passion for Pouring, because I do have a passion to pour into the lives of women as well as men, but primarily my heart goes out to women, and I can identify more with women. And what else? Oh, and I have, each one has to help one, has to lift one. Right. So one of my many mantras is, when women support other women, spectacular things happen. So I do make sure that I have a network of women that we are behind the scenes supporting. Sometimes you have to carry someone else's crown before you can put yours on.
Wow. That's something, Can you say that one more time?
Sometimes you have to carry someone else's crown before you can put yours on.
Wow, that speaks volumes. And I know you're doing all these extra things along with being in corporate America, in the position that you're in, which is very challenging. So that speaks a lot, definitely. So now I have a last question for you. What is your next boss move?
Well, actually I have a few things.
Okay.
So I have some boss moves. So my next boss move, throughout April, I am going to be doing a few speaking engagements. I have a speaking engagement that's going to be in Oklahoma in May. And in July, I am going to host another women's workshop. It is called Love, Life, and Lessons Learned. And stay tuned for that. I don't want to give it away, but I can tell you that lives have been changed. because of that. Yes, it's a women's workshop dedicated for us to be the best that we can be for ourselves so we can be the best for someone else.
Wow. And see, that's what I'm talking about. She's made so many boss moves in different areas, even from the beginning of singleness. And that's the reason I brought out about her singleness, because she had to take that thing by the rein, just to rein it in and say, this is what I need to do. Let me write this down. But then you got into where you wanted to write the book. Now, are you planning on writing another book? Or?
You know, God has given that to me. My coach is coaching me to do that with me. I am very methodical. I can tell you that. I have prayed about it. I've prayed about the people. I'm in the process now of praying about the publisher. But yes, I can tell you that you'll definitely see where I'm going to be doing more books, more things that are going to impact the lives of everybody.
That's wonderful, because I know that book, you know, it did well. So definitely, yes. You know, it means that it helped a lot of people.
Yes.
So it's going to help even more people, because it's not through yet.
No.
There's more coming. Stay tuned.
Yes.
Yes, the best is yet to come, as they say, right?
Yes.
So definitely, I mean, I enjoy speaking to you about your book and your endeavors and things, because I see that you are doing what I say, making boss moves. You got to do it. Anybody out there want to make some boss moves, though? All right, so make some boss moves. She's just an example of what happens when you do make boss moves. Things start happening for you. Connections start happening. Things just start moving forward for you. You don't even have to really ask for a lot of things at that time. They're just going to start coming your direction. When you make a boss move, you got to start moving forward first, because nobody, you know, helps the person just standing there, because we don't know what you want. We have to see what you want, what you're doing, so we can get involved. And so it may be something that's going to help us. So definitely, Ann, thank you so much. I know with the ones that you're coaching along the way, they are definitely just going to be changed. Because the brief conversation that I had with you, I just thought, you know, it was pretty awesome, just from, you know, the way you brought that out. So really appreciate you being a guest. I know we're kind of a little bit now on borrowed time, but, you know, if anyone, I have the mics up. So if anybody wants to step forward and want to ask a question about the book is called Soul Talk. So, and let me show the book. So this is the book.
That's yours, I think.
Oh,
to you.
Well, thank you. So the book is called Soul Talk, and it was a bestseller, and we have her sitting here. So let's, you know, give her a hand for that. Encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, and you know, don't never give up, what I say. And I can tell that you are a type that will definitely never give up until you reach that goal, that purpose, that destiny that you need to reach, and that you know within you that's going to happen. So, you know, I'm just excited about when I have my guests on and them showing me what they're doing. I don't know why that excites me so much when people make boss moves. I don't know why, but I get excited about that, because I know they're not sitting on their hands. Because you're not going to get anywhere. And so for me, like in my circle, I like to be around people who are on fire and ready to do some things, and not just, you know, 9 to 5 and I'm home and out. Because 9 to 5, home and out, sometimes that takes you out of your dream, of your hopes, because we all have them. And I know you know that. We all have them, so we don't want to just sit down on them. Everybody has a gift. And the gifts are not just singing and dancing, all right? Everybody has a gift. And to me, and I'm going to ask you real quick on this. What do you think about that? Because I believe that the gift that you have is always bigger than you, because it's not for you, it's for those around you.
I agree 100%, and just know the differentiation between gifts and talents.
Right.
So everyone definitely has a gift. There is something that you have in you that will positively impact the life of someone else. And when someone gives you a gift, they expect you to use it. So when God gives you a gift, He expects you to use it. Mm-hmm. Whatever your talent is, if it's what these guys are doing, what you're doing, go on and do that. And just believe that if you take one step, God will bring you two.
Wow. I agree. Wow. And before I wrap this up, I always say, you know, because I believe in that with the boss move so much. My children even believe in that. And the cameramen today are my boys.
Wow.
So they're just really moving along with things. You know, one of the best real estate agents in the DFW market is my son. So it's just, and then my other son, he's definitely a designer like you wouldn't believe. He just has these creative ideas. So boss moves, I believe in making boss moves. So if they were around me and not making them, I'll be making them make those boss moves. All right, well, thank you so much, Ann, and for coming and being on the show. We just want to thank you for that today. And you guys, look, making sure that you make boss moves. I want you to go home today and actually write some things down that you have in your heart. You know what I always say, you're not too young, you're not too old. It's just only thing that holds us back is ourselves. And so if we have someone in here that wanted to ask a question, I kind of skated past that, and I see we have a question. Definitely come to the mic, please.
Thank you so much. I am really happy to be here. My name is Miss Anyicha. I happened to meet Ann at a Bank of America where I went to open an account for my little business I started. I worked so hard a couple of years ago to be a CPA. My desire was to get into corporate America. Finally, I did, but somewhere along the way, I had two conflicting things. I had my son, he is 5. He has special needs, so I started